Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Zemo the Dad in DPS, and we're back with another episode of The Good, The Scrap, and The Scrip, a series where I review weapons and see how well they do in Appalachia. Today's weapon is one I've actually had for a long while, and I've used quite a lot in several of my streams. You guys have probably seen it, and yeah, it's not new. But I've not reviewed it, and I don't know really why. But before we get into that, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, subscribe. You can become a YouTube member by clicking that join link down below, and there is my coffee link if you'd like to support the channel in a different way. Either way, let's get on with it. It's time for you to feel the sting of the claw. Now, honestly, the claw is one of my oldest melee weapons. I can't remember how I got it. I think it dropped off something. And it is a vampire swing speed, 1 strength, meat hook. Now, it's a very underrated weapon, the meat hook. Fist weapons in general are actually incredibly powerful, and I think in the right hands they can do some incredible damage and incredible things. And vampire in this thing, I think, is absolutely fantastic. And I definitely want to show you guys what this type of weapon and type of build can really do when you kind of use it. It's not a power fist, it's not a gauntlet, it's not the best melee weapon in the game, but it definitely gets the job done, and I use it a lot. So, meat hooks. Now, like most melee weapons, they get kind of underestimated and pushed to the side and forgotten about. It's why I made my specific melee build, because I really do enjoy playing around with melee weapons and just beating the living daylights out of enemies. The great thing about this weapon is it is incredibly fast, it is relatively easy to upgrade, and the damage is pretty substantial for what you'd expect. I mean, I go through these enemies with little to no effort, and with the right perks in mind, the explosions and all the different damage sources that this can cause, it keeps my health topped up for the most part. I mean, super mutants aren't the weakest of enemies, and they get thrown around by this weapon quite easily. On top of that, if I get a ricochet proc, because it is a vampire weapon, I'm going to get my health back as well. And the explosions that come off of this hurt like hell. With Grenadier now, it hits things that are far farther away than you would expect as well. So there is the advantage that this weapon is going to be hitting more enemies in an open space. In a closed off area like West Tech, it's not the best way to use it, but at the same time, most other enemies would die way too quick for me to show you how well it's doing its damage. As you can see, it is just slicing through these super mutants like they're made of butter and doing decent damage to them via the multitude of explosions that come off this weapon in all directions. Don't get me wrong, it is not going to be able to compete with a power fist in terms of damage of the same type, but I think it's faster swing speed if I'm not wrong. So you do get the better use out of the vampire effect for definite, and that's all you can really ask for in a melee weapon. Is it going to keep you alive, and are you going to tear the enemy a new one? And the answer is yes to both of those. So as you can see here, we have the build. Now, if you want a better look at this, pause the video here and take a very close look at what I'm using. I'm not going to really explain it. If you want a video on melee builds, definitely say down there. And because of how important legendary perks are to this build, this is what this character currently has. As you can see, I'm not maxed out on everything yet, and that is a very important factor to take into consideration. This is not doing the damage it could potentially end up doing. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and click the relevant links below if you want to support the channel. Let's move on. As usual, we are back with the big stinky that is Jeff. He is the biggest, meanest super mutant in all of Appalachia, and I'm gonna basically string him up by nipple hooks. We'll see what happens. This could go very good, could go very bad. I can't remember the last time I fought him in this manner, but as you're seeing, he isn't really capable of killing me that easily. However, because I'm in melee range, I do need to be really careful and pop a stim pack on occasion, and yeah, it kills him relatively quick. But as I said, you do need to be careful against bigger enemies with this type of build. Unfortunately, they do tend to beat the living daylights out of me. Now, for the sake of consistency, I will be showing this against the the Mirelurk Queen. The reason I say for consistency is just to show you guys that melee isn't exactly the best build against this type of enemy. It is problematic a lot of times on the basis that they hurt like a mother trucker, and there's no way to consistently cripple them. So what I have to do in order to deal with the Queen is sort of circle around her and hope that she doesn't get a good hit off on me. And that is the consistent problem with this weapon against her, is that I kind of have to rely on being able to circle around. Don't get me wrong, I will also use things like my stim packs, again, because she is not something that is easy to deal with in a melee build. But as you can see, if you're using it right and using your kind of advantage of being able to circle around her, being faster than her, you can win. You can defeat a Mirelurk Queen with this type of weapon. It's got some decent stats, it is just very consistent and just a good weapon. I really, really do enjoy it, but it is a bit more effort to fight things like the Queen. Jeff would have been just as easy if it weren't for the fact he was in a pool of water that was, you know, well, crotch high. So it was causing me to try and swim, apparently. But yeah, the Queen went down relatively easily, I thought. Let's move on to daily ops. Now, I could go about this all stealthy-like. Honestly, I don't think there's much point in doing it because it's kind of a little bit boring to do with this type of weapon. So I'm going to run in and go all guns blazing and hope for the best. It could go literally either way for me, but that is the nature of the beast when you're using weapons like this. Now, obviously, because you're not getting any specific ammo out of this, you do have the advantage that this could be used to farm just a multitude of different ammo. The weapon is very good at killing enemies, and you are regenerating that health, especially if you get multiples in a row and they are getting hit by the explosion. However, because of the low health and whatnot, you do die relatively quickly. But then again, you are... I don't know if it's just my imagination, but I always feel more maneuverable in my melee characters. I think it's psychosomatic. Because I need to get close, I'm constantly running and doing a bunch of things in order to get close. And I think it just feels good to play a melee build. But don't get me wrong, you're not like invincible with this weapon. It's not like your really fast fire rate vampire weapons on big things. You really need to be careful with what you're doing and kind of watch that you're not overreaching, that you're not taking on too many enemies at once. And that's mainly because it is the anti-armor day in in freaking daily ops. Like, anything gets shredded by these guys. It's not an exclusive problem to this weapon. Not to mention, they're invisible, so it's making it difficult for me to make sure I can even hit them. But as you're seeing, like, I'm not getting consistently blown away by every single enemy. Don't get me wrong, they aren't... Oh, something. Where are you shooting from? It's really difficult to find them. It's really difficult to maneuver. It's just a very consistent thing that I'm doing. And fortunately, through a little bit of experience and a little bit of knowledge, it works out quite well. Good weapon, and I really enjoy it. So that was tonight's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. If you'd like to become a YouTube member, there is the member button down below the video, and you can support the channel by clicking on my Ko-fi link as well. So yeah, let's thank our YouTube members, which are Goldie, White, Blackburn, Wallers, me, Dealfin Gaming, Colin G, Brian RMC, Peggy McKnight, Matasbo, Devilman Games, Marcus Garsko, Scott S, Papadoodle Mom, Ranger McSprudel, and Anxiety Rangers. A big thanks to all of you. We can't do this without you, and your continued support is a massive amount of motivation for me to continue making these videos. So today's weapon, one of my favourites. I have been using this weapon for a very long time, and I honestly don't know why I didn't showcase it sooner. I think it's a combination of melee weapons don't seem to do very good in my videos, and on top of that, it's not exactly a top tier weapon, but at the same time, you guys have been showing a lot of support for the relatively unused weapons in comparison, so I thought I'd show you what the meat hook, well, the vampire faster swing speed 1 strength meat hook can do. And I think it's a very consistent and valuable weapon. pretty much the backbone of my melee build. I won't lie about that. It keeps me alive, it does a lot of damage, it's just consistently good, and I am really happy with it in general. But with that, we'll catch you all next time in the Wasteland.